Andrea,
Hello.
how are you?
We're live.
Okay. It's September 14, 2023, and this is the Facilities and Finance Committee meeting. My name is Yota Pali, I'm a board member. Please say your name and title with Marian.
Thank you. Marion McKee, School Board.
Bob Hickey, School Board.
Mike Norwood, School Board.
Joe Hidalgo, School Board.
Andrea Mangold, Director of Communications.
Matt Federickson, IT Director.
Tony Rapp, Director of Business Administration.
Andy Sanko, Superintendent.
Nicole Crawford, Director of Elementary Education.
Al Fong, Director of Secondary Education. Steve Nomis, School Board Director. Ed Tate, School Board.
Great, so I'm going to start with facilities today.
Yes.
I think Mr.
Ian
Solomon.
Italian, Ed Delavan, I'm on the phone.
Hey, Ed. I knew you were on the
All right,
phone.
good evening.
Yeah, thank you for
Miss-
dialing in.
I just got a text from Mr. Roosevelt, who's also going to be calling in momentarily.
Okay.
Okay?
We'll be waiting for Mr. Wilson to call in, but we can start with facilities.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to be presenting the Finance and Facilities meeting tonight. So first off, the agenda for tonight. The Richboro Elementary terrazzo change order. The Soul Finestone, there's a change order for the schedule. Termination of a kitchen exhaust hood contract. And we'll talk about the repairing the elevator in this building and Siemens service agreement. So the first item is the Richboro Elementary School terrazzo change order. We discussed this at the last Finance Committee meeting. This is to put to approve the change order at next week's board meeting. The cost to put terrazzo in the Richboro Elementary School cafeteria is $130,000. To put it in the 10 classroom addition corridors, $72,098. If we do them both at the same time, add them both, the combined price is $160,000. So there's a $42,000 savings by doing that. And we're recommending approval of the change order to Penn Builders in the amount of $160,000.
Any questions?
May I point out, that is within the scope of the project?
Yes, it is within the scope of the project. It does not put us over budget on the project.
Pull it from the consent. I'll have some things to say. As Hillcrest didn't get terrazzo because, well, it feels like spite. So I'll have some things to say at the board meeting, so pull it from the consent, please.
Okay. But you are okay with it or you're not? I mean,
No, I'm not going to hurt any other kids because of it, but I'm going to talk about it at the board meeting.
any other comments or questions?
The next item is Full Finestone Elementary no-cost schedule change order. So because of the change in the way that we're doing the Full Finestone renovations, we're reducing the actual time, the schedule for the project. The initial duration for phase 5C, which is the library roof replacement and renovation, was supposed to be from 6/24/24 to 10/18/24. Now with the changes that we made, it will be from 9/1/23 to 12/22/23. There's no cost added, it's just a change order we need to do. We're asking you to approve so that we can, because the schedule needs to be changed in the contract.
And that also we push up the end of the project, which will be the new start right? Or
Yeah, I
the
mean,
next year?
it cuts back on the end of the project the next year, but I guess this was the last phase, so since we moved the project will end before school starts in '24. The whole project should be complete
Right.
next year.
So I want to also thank Dr. Sandro for giving us a little tour of Salt Pine Stone. And Dr. Ramos and I went together, and it looks so good. It's like so different how much it used to be. I was very impressed, and everybody seemed very happy. I mean, as usual, but even happier maybe that week.
I agree, and that's something I said to Dr. Singh in the touring, going through the hallways, and it's something that just as soon as one of us kind of popped into the room, everybody gives a warm welcome. It's kind of above the materialistic aspect of the building itself, you can see that the atmosphere of the culture there was very positive.
And there's definitely much more natural light in this building than it used to be, and that makes a difference. I really like psychology. Any other questions or comments?
Point of order, Mr. Roosevelt's on the phone. Just so you know.
Oh, okay.
That's all.
Hello, Mr. Roosevelt. Welcome to our meeting.
Thank you very much.
Great. Okay, we can go on. I think we're okay with that, right?
The next item on the agenda is the termination of the kitchen exhaust hood contract. There's a contractor that we had that would clean the hoods. We're asking you to terminate the contract, and we're just terminating it based on the 30-day notice. We've had trouble getting them in, and we used another vendor to do it. So because of that, we'd like to go out to bid, terminate this contract and go out to bid on a new contract, so we get all those clean again next time we do it in December.
So, can we reclaim any of the money off that contract?
There's really no money to reclaim.
They're billed in arrears.
Yeah, they're billed, and we did not pay for the last time they were supposed to be out.
Thank you.
Good idea, though.
So there's really nothing to that.
So we can keep it in consent agenda?
And we're simply terminating based on the 30-day out clause in the contract. The Chancellor Center elevator repair design. So we had some companies come in to give us prices on repairing the elevator. The price is in the $25,000 range to repair the elevator with the leak in the hydraulic lines. Judging by that, we feel that it needs to we need to bid the project like we would any other construction project. So because of the cost, so we're looking to for you to approve hiring Dewey to perform drawing specifications so that we can send the project out to bid. The fee is $4,100 plus 6.7% of the final project cost that comes in on the bid. We're asking you to approve up to $10,000 in case there's changes or other things that come up. We don't want to exceed $10,000, but we don't expect it to be that much. So just asking for $10,000 right now, so we don't have to come back and ask for $2,000 more.
Thank you. Other professional art designing companies were engaged, or we just went with Dewey because of our relationship?
We won't do it because of our relationship.
Sorry. And because, the consortiums, I'm always going to be beating the drum on the consortiums. I know that these companies have all these apartment, multi-housing has like elevators and like tons of them. So I wonder if we could capture some kind of bulk service through one of those.
Well, this is just for the design. This is not for the elevator construction.
Sure. Oh, and you're saying that the repair could be $25,000,
Yeah.
and we're going to end up paying almost at least 30, 35 for the design.
Yeah.
No, design and
The
repair.
design right there is gonna be at least $6,000.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I don't know the answer to whether there's any design groups, that we can access in the consortium. But we do, we can look into that.
Please, at least for future projects, I'm not gonna hold this one up, but I just know that elevators are serviced across all industries, and that put those consortiums in there to provide bulk service with. But it's probably not gonna be any different than what you're coming up with, so.
Well, I will say,
Just mention that.
when it comes to construction, I don't know that we, like, if the public bidding process, we're getting somebody else's bid price in the consortium, and I'm not saying that they're good prices, we use them all the time. I mean, we pretty much, any request that we get, we check to see if there's a consortium price that beats the price they're looking for. But I feel that some of these, when we're talking about construction, the public bidding process is something that we probably want to continue to use for construction. We can look at it from the perspective of maybe it's not a project of this size, but I will look into whether or not we can find someone for this project going forward, this type of project
Just
going
the
forward.
last thing, nobody's gonna bid on it without an architectural design attached to it?
Well, so if we want to go out to public bid, we need to have that.
Okay. They wouldn't be able to come in like they did with the boiler.
Yeah, so that's just them coming in and saying, this is the type of boiler that goes in. They can't.
Okay, I'm just,
Yeah.
thank you.
So I just want to add a couple of things that I have in my notes from the prep meeting. So this is to repair the hydraulic fluid of the elevator that has been leaking, and we are morally obligated to do it. It's a hazard material, from what I remember. Is that the one we're talking about?
Yeah.
And then we're violating ADA, but we think we're okay because we're in good faith. But this elevator is not working right now, so there is a little bit of urgency to go. But I don't know about the design, but I just sense the sense of urgency to get this done.
Why go out to bid if it's an ADA emergency, then just take care of get the emergency work done on it? Why would we do that? If it's an
I don't know,
I'm
Jeff.
just going on what you're saying, I would be like, why?
Well,
Why wait if it's a hazard?
We're making a good faith effort to fix the problem. We do have accommodations in place for, we can meet with people outside of, they don't have to go up to the second floor, they don't have to go down the basement, we can meet with them. And then we can, for access to this, there are doors over there that people can use on the same level.
It's the access for ADA, it's not we have a hazardous situation.
No, there is, I think the liquid, the fluid,
Yeah, that's a hazardous.
is a hazard
Well,
that
it's
needs
not
to be taken care of.
Got to be abated immediately.
hydraulic fluid, we should, the responsible thing would be to abate it.
You might have answered the question, but I don't get it. Like, what's the design part of it? If the guys come in and they say, "Oh, here's your problem, and let's fix it," like, what are they designing? What's Dewey designing?
So the hydraulic line currently is buried in the cement underneath the elevator, right? The design is to move the hydraulic line from where it is underneath of it up the shaft to the top where it needs to be. What that does is it removes the hydraulic line from being buried in concrete and makes it more serviceable for the future. So that's why they have to do a design,
Okay.
because they've got to engineer that whole thing so we can get a proper bid, because it has to be installed a bit away so it'll pass inspection by the city and all that.
Okay, so
Perfect.
yeah,
Thank
that's
That was a good explanation.
The only other, Joe stole some of my thunder, I mean, you go ahead with this, is fine. You ought to start, you and Jess, seriously considering a second engineering firm. You're awful cozy with them, they can dictate whatever prices they want, and they know they can get them. I make no mistake, I'm not happy with them. So you might want to consider, we've been throwing money at the same engineering firm for 20 years, and maybe it's time. So
Okay.
You know, we could argue the other way too, but there is no, these are not bid. So there's no, there's no competition. So,
Okay. Okay.
Can we-
Could I make a couple of points?
Yes, of course.
Thank you. So this is a repair to an existing elevator. The documentation would be for rerouting the hydraulic lines. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're not violating ADA. This is an existing building with an existing elevator.
Well, we're violating ADA only in the extent that this is a public building without second floor access. But as
Well,
Tony,
we may not be in compliance. We may not be in compliance, but we're not violating ADA.
Okay.
It's grandfathered under existing building code.
Okay, the important point, I think, is that we have to make the repair because in order to comply with ADA, we have to have a functional elevator, but we're okay for now. But it's why we can't delay the project.
So the elevator, right, the elevator doesn't work, so it's a repair
Right,
to existing equipment.
exactly.
Right, so having a functional elevator is important. I just wanted to clear up, just for the public's edification, to make sure that we're not throwing terms around like violating ADA. We're making a repair to existing equipment to return to compliance.
Okay.
Okay.
That's not a word just used, but she said whatever we're doing is in good faith, so we're okay. And I wish she was here today, but she's not here. So. But thank you, Mr. Roosevelt. Do you have any other comments?
No, that's it for now. Thank you. I just wanted to understand a little bit more and make that clear.
Great. Should we go ahead? Do you have any more?
The next item on the agenda is a service agreement with Siemens for service of the HVAC controls at Chancellor Center, South, and Goodnow Elementary. The total annual cost is $41,310. This is an annual renewal for providing, service and maintenance for these HVAC systems.
they're not Johnson Controls.
No. And the reason for that is these are most of the controls in these buildings are Siemens. So,
That's why we have those buildings.
yeah, Johnson Controls and the other.
Any questions, comments?
That's it for the facilities agenda. Upcoming items on facilities, Richboro Elementary School rock removal change order, Hillcrest Elementary School general electrical contracts to close out change orders, looking at the next year's, or the closeout of this year's capital improvement summer projects. I think they're all pretty far along and completed, so closing out those projects, and to put together next year's capital improvement plan summer projects. So we're working on the capital improvement, the 5-year plan, and what projects we want to look at for next year.
If you could, for the meeting, can you ask Jess, is Hillcrest done yet or not? And just have that for the meeting. I'd like everybody to know.
For the next meeting or for the board meeting?
The board meeting.
I know we have been getting a lot of contracts and bid with Hillcrest and getting.
No, I did. You don't have to answer tonight.
Okay, well, I'm just.
That's fine, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Finance agenda. So accept donation for we have a donation for a rock wall at Goodnow Elementary. The South Senior Prom Agreement for 2025. Farmstead exception agreement with IU to send out our homestead information. 22-23 results of operations. Policy 620 fund balance. the investment management plan that we've been working with Cornerstone on, and a student assessment and analysis system. So the first item, the Goodnoe Elementary School PTO is offering to donate a rock wall to Goodnoe Elementary. The purchase should come from the Adventure Network, 256 square foot rock wall with holes and texture paint, and 8 4x6 mats with locking wall attachments. The cost also includes installation and training. The total cost is $12,494, and it's entirely being donated by the Goodnoe PTO. So since it's above $5,000, we have to ask the board to approve the donation.
Questions?
Is it impacting curriculum in a way that the other schools will not have?
Other schools have rock walls. And the one thing I would like to add, when we were doing the pre-meeting, we received the question about students with special needs in terms of their ability to use this rock wall. So for all of our students with different types of disabilities, there are many modifications that can be made on these rock walls from different holds, paths, etc. So students with mobility issues, they could stand on the ground and still use the rock wall.
Dr. Thorward, I was just going to add that we actually had a rock wall at Goodnoe Elementary School, and then when we were being renovated, it was not in good shape, and at the time, we decided not to replace it and revisit it, which is what's happening now, but we did have one for many years.
All good?
Approve the CR South 2025 prom contract at the National Constitution Center on Friday, May 16th, 2025. This is routine. Okay. The Homestead Farmstead Agreement. So we contract with Bucks County Intermediate every year to print, advertise, and mail the homestead exclusion notices in December 2023. The cost is 88.6 cents per parcel. This is something that we have to do as part of the Homestead Farmstead Act and the tax relief. This is one of those things where the intermediate unit does this for several districts in the county, and it provides an economy of scale and saves money for all of us rather than us having to do it ourselves. Contracting with the IU to do it saves us money.
That's good, thank you. So this is the notice that goes out to people who are eligible, or okay, so they haven't signed up, but once they sign up, they won't.
Yeah, it's to the people who aren't eligible.
Forever to respond, I thought it was junk mail. It's a scan.
They contract with a title searcher to provide the names and addresses of the people who don't have it but want to be eligible, and advertise it and get that information.
We've done it for years.
Oh, I know, I got it in here, and it took me 7 years to sign up.
Yeah, we've done it for a while.
22-23 results of operations. So I wanted to bring to you, I want to preface this by saying this is still tentative. I just made a journal entry this morning, a small one that was like $2,000. But these numbers are not final. The audit is next week. But I did want to give you an idea of where we're going to finish the 22-23 school year. In the general fund, we're looking at a $7,700,000 increase in fund balance. In the capital projects fund, that's the fund that we use. We get the bond money into, and then we build from that. That increased by $8 million, mostly because of the bond that we issued and what hasn't been spent. And that fund balance ends at $26 million. The capital reserve, that's where we transfer money from the general fund to for projects like the summer projects. That decreased by $3.9 million. The food service fund increased again by $326,402. So that we're looking at a balance of almost 2.6 million. The healthcare fund, again, that increased by $1.8 million. So we're looking at $27 million in that fund. We seem to have a better year than expected in the healthcare fund. We do have a plan to spend that down. Some of it down next year, or in this current year, we have the additional, we're putting less into that for premiums. And the debt service fund went down by $207,781. That is due to, we try to maintain that $18 million debt amount out of the general fund that we transfer into there. So we did transfer some money there a few years ago to cover some of these payments that were going to be more than 18 million. So that decrease is that difference in between what we try to pay out of the general fund and what we pay out of the debt service fund. And again, these amounts are preliminary and may not include all accruals or audit adjustments. It should not be considered final. So these are the numbers that we're looking at for the general fund. I do have more on the general fund, ending fund balances, if you would like to see that, or if you have questions.
Yeah, I was just going to say, the next slide has the sums of the,
I had a question, if I could. When I add the beginning of the first three columns, when I add that up and then I add up the ending balance, even including the addition, the 8.8 that you said was a new loan?
Well, that's the bond, part of that's the bond issue.
It wasn't a reissue, it was a new bond.
It was new bond, yeah.
And that's how we paid for the whole school, $800,000, great. That was an additional bond to the $28,000. I'm just wondering how that, is there something else that made the ending balance bigger on there, or that's just, because when I add it all up, I'm trying to see.
Could we
We'll
go
go
to
next-
the next slide. Yeah.
Hold on,
Next slide.
Mr. Tate, I was asking,
Yeah, I understand the question. All I was trying to explain, Joe, is
you're
that,
interrupting. Go ahead.
all I'm trying to explain is that the subsequent slides give the big picture.
Okay.
We get too excited because we have seen, you have.
Yeah, I was just wondering, because I looked at it, but we'll go ahead, we'll go to the next slide.
Well, are you
I
asking
could
about
ask-
the capital projects fund?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the
So we
beginning
borrowed that
balances.
money, yeah. we
Yeah, so
borrowed that
there's
money.
more money in there,
Yeah.
that's not on that slide.
No, there was money in there. We borrowed 20 million. We spent down, a portion of that.
Okay.
But
No, that's fine, we'll do it offline. Go ahead, let's move to the next.
well, because we did spend more than we borrowed because there was the other project, because like Soulfly and Stone Mountain was already going on.
Ultimately, we ended up $7.7 million to good last year.
In the general fund, yes.
When we were looking for tax increases, that's the number we needed to know. Would have been great, right? But we're in good shape for this year anyway.
Yeah, well, you're correct. But those, we're waiting for state amount. I mean, we're looking to see where we're going to end up. And again, that we don't want to balance next year's budget on this year's fund balance too much. We do something. We did budget on $2 million. We did base on $2 million. And I will say that of that $7 million, like $3 million of it was due to unexpected returns on our investments.
I
Right.
just
That's
slid that over to Joe.
Yeah.
At 3 months,
And
4 months
understood
deeper.
that.
once you take that away, we're within 2% of the budget. I mean, it sounds like it's a lot of money, but when you consider, the size of our budget, if we're at 2%, we're doing really well.
We completely underestimated the returns. We were really way off by.
No one could have
I
assumed
did,
a short.
but that's good. We went conservative anyway.
Well, we were less conservative with the 23-24 budget, and I will tell you that some of the things I'll talk about later, we probably were still too conservative because of, but there's things that are happening that couldn't be predicted right now.
Well, thank you. I'm sorry to throw off everybody.
But I did also want to draw attention to the food service fund, and we're not supposed to have that kind of money in the food service fund. We are in the process of changing how we account for the food service fund. Since the high schools are not on the program, we're looking at separating out, they'll still be the same in the fund, but separating out the amount so that we know what is made in the high schools and what's made in the high schools and what's made in the schools that are on the program. And then that way, the hope is that we find more money in the high schools, and because they're not on the program, we can use the money in the high schools to pay for, we can cover their own costs for the kids that are on the program in the high school. So we can cover that within the high school. So if we separate that money out and don't have that go into the state, we can use that money. We can also use it for paying off, and any student debt that's accumulated that is unable to be paid. So rather than using taxpayer money to pay that, the plan is to start using excess cafeteria funds. And so, but if they're combined, because we have schools in the program, we can't use that money for the schools that are not in the program. So that's our plan to improve this accounting. So I just want to point that out, that we do have a plan to spend down that excess food service fund balance. Okay? So to show you where we are with the results of operations, and this is just for the general fund, and again, this is tentative because we have to be audited. I don't think we have too many more adjustments, and we think the audit will go really smoothly because Cheryl's done a great job putting that together for them. But so our non-spendable, that's things like inventory and prepaids, things that we can't spend as cash, is $148,321. Restricted is money that we've received, like from CREF and things that have been given that have a very specific purpose that we can't spend anywhere else. The committed fund balances are educational initiatives fund balance of $8 million, and what we budgeted to balance the 23-24 budget of $2,432,840. The assigned fund balance is the fund balance that we've been setting aside for things like turf replacement from the fees for schools that use our, like I can't think of it. Cruiser, thank you. And that's that money. And so the unassigned fund balance is $16,587,289 for the total fund balance of $27,424,850. Our budgeted expenditures for 23-24 are $267,977,152. So we've talked about the policy change to the fund balance policy and changing the maximum from 5% to 8%. I would recommend that in this year we do not do a transfer to capital reserve, and we leave that money in there to help us get on our way to getting to that 8% that I'd like to see. So we would be at 6.19%. I think next year I would recommend that we go back to a transfer and leave some money in there, increase it somewhat, but kind of just get us a little closer and then do the rest of it gradually. So that would be my recommendation as far as transfers.
8% in line with the state.
And the 8%, so we want to be at that, I'd like to be at that 8% every year, which is in line with the state and the other districts in the state. And that's what a lot of school districts, try to leave their unassigned fund balance at. So that's where we are with the fund balance.
Could I just ask a little history, because we always were lower?
Yes.
When you were doing the audit, was that something that you would that be something you looked at and commented that your fund balance is not at 8% or not really?
We wouldn't be able to make a comment on it because it was below the state minimum. If it was at 9%, then it would have been a problem. But because it was below the state maximum, we couldn't make a comment on it. When I was auditing, I did consider, there's a policy, so we were, it was in line with the policy and didn't exceed the state maximum. I just, it's just nothing that we ever expect to use, but just would like to be, comparable to other districts.
Thank you.
It's a rainy day fund.
I'm all about it.
Sort of, I mean, catastrophic events.
I'd hate to use that
It's
word.
readily
Yeah, but,
accessible.
A catastrophic event.
Yeah, yeah.
And, you know, I mean, I would think it'd be more like, God forbid there was another pandemic and people weren't able to pay their taxes in July and August, and we would need that money to pay bills until taxes
Just
were
the
able to
cash
be
flow.
collected. Yeah, to
Yeah.
keep the cash flow. Something like that.
Any other questions, comments?
Policy 620 fund balance, we did talk about this last month. Rob looked at it and he was fine with the version that we're looking to pass, except for, maximum 4 and minimum max of 4 and 5, I changed it to 4 and 8. I did have to make a change, that's why I'm bringing it back here. There was a section in the policy regarding the healthcare fund and saying that any excess money in the healthcare fund needed to be transferred back to the general fund. As I stated when we were doing the budget, I don't think that's appropriate. That's employee money that's going in there. It needs to stay in the healthcare fund. So I've removed that from the policy that I'm asking you to approve.
Will you have it ready for next meeting?
Yes.
Does anybody have a problem with just blowing it through at the next meeting?
No.
We've had a couple of reads.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we've already discussed it, so yeah, I agree.
There you go.
Anybody on the phone has any comments or questions about that?
All good, thank you.
Great.
I had spoken to them, so I figured they were.
So this is exciting for me. The 23-24 investment plan.
It's exciting for us.
So we're looking to maximize our investment returns in 23-24. Our TD Bank interest rate is around 3.5%. And right now, if you look at short-term bonds, federal bonds, 1 to 4 months, the interest is between 5.5% and 6.1%. So that's much more than what we're getting with TD Bank. So I worked with Kevin on this, and we discussed it. What we'd like to do is maintain a $20 million plus next month's bills balance in our TD Bank account and invest the rest in these federal bonds. So once again, they're federal bonds, so the federal government has to go under for us to lose this money. 1 to 4%, which, it's going to greatly increase our return on investment. Right now, we have a lot of money invested in, we collect a large portion of our money in the first 2 months of the year. So we've got this money sitting in a bank account, earning 3.5%. We'd like to transfer it to some of these short-term bonds and get that better interest. So that
I think
we're...
that's an excellent idea for personal finances too, if there is enough
Yeah.
funds there, but I don't know what's the total that you have to invest in the bonds, but.
Well,
I had just, earlier I told Joe, I just bought them at 5.5%, so 4-month deal. So,
Right,
this is unbelievable.
Yeah.
The money that's-
I mean, that's what I'm saying. So we budgeted based on what we made last year and thinking that would be
That's
similar.
fair.
And now this comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And so we could end up even higher.
And there is no way you can predict something as funky as this.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I mean, this is, the yield curve is so inverted right now. It's just ridiculous, so. Okay.
Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
We move on?
This is perfectly safe. I mean, if anybody's
Yeah.
listening, we're not,
Yes, that's
we're
what-
not chasing anything crazy. This is perfect.
They're short-term, they're backed by the federal government. And so you can invest in a 1-month bond and get a better rate than you would on a 10-year bond.
Yes,
which
you
is
can. Yeah.
unbelievable.
Doesn't make sense, but it's
Well, it's,
happening, right?
it's the market, so.
Right.
So anyway, this just makes me happy. The next item is the student assessment and analytics system. So we've used Performance Plus for a long time, and the software that we've been using is sunsetting. They formed a selection committee was formed in the spring of 2023, and we sent out an RFP, and 6 vendors responded, and they put together a rubric for the selection process. Of those 6 vendors, 4 made presentations, and the committee narrowed the vendors down to 2 and has recommended Linkit as our new student assessment and analytics system. Just to give you some background, 8 out of 13 Bucks County districts already use Linkit. So when we look at the cost of Performance Matters, the new Performance Matters, is $46,876, and the cost of Linkit is $81,575. Now, the thing is you're not comparing apples to apples here when it comes down to what we're getting with Linkit as compared to Performance Matters. So why are we looking at a product that costs more? There's an intervention manager module for our multi-tiered system of support, which I will let Nicole explain what that is after we go through everything, which is something that the other software doesn't have. They provide 5 days of training on that module. There's a comprehensive assessment platform. It manages and analyzes student assessment data. They streamline migration of historical reports data. There's dedicated account support, executive and PD offerings for staff, and expertise with state-related assessments and local compliance. So we've, PSSA, Keystone, and they've been in partnership with BCIU since 2014. So it is, widely used within the county. Again, makes us comparable and puts us in the same position as 8 of the other districts in the county. I don't know if you want to do the Linkit difference, seamless solution, a team-based approach, deep analytics and continuous product innovation, best-in-class technology solution, carefully managed implementation, and a team-based model of customer support that grows with you over time.
Could you put back the previous slide?
Sure.
So we can go over and see what maybe you call it the next slide.
Yes, so
I'd like to start, good evening everyone. I'd like to start by talking a little bit about MTSS, which stands for a multi-tiered system of support. And actually this is going to be a topic at our October Education Committee meeting, so I'm just going to briefly touch on it to give you a little bit of background tonight so you know why Linkit for us is definitely our top vendor of choice because of this initiative. So MTSS is a framework of support that we use in order to target struggling students and what they need and intervene. And of course, we always talk about early intervention is key when meeting the needs of students. So we started the work of MTSS last year with planning. We have a leadership committee in the district that was formed, and we're actually rolling it out this year. Although a couple schools dabbled with it last year, it's formally being rolled out this year. Actually, as we speak, we're on week 2. The key to MTSS is being able to screen all students to be able to determine their needs 3 times a year, and then holding data meetings to be able to respond to the data. So we're using the data, responding to the data in a systematic and consistent manner across all the 10 elementary schools. What makes Linkit so appealing through just the presentation, of course, that we heard during this process, but I actually had an opportunity, as well as Mr. Funk, to hear about Linkit a year ago. Our counterparts, as Mr. Rapp shared, 8 out of 13 school districts in Bucks County are using it, and to really hear about the benefits that they see with MTSS in particular was really impressive. And in recently speaking with Linkit, we were able to learn a little bit about one component, which is called Intervention Manager. And that's basically where everything for MTSS is housed. The data that we end up transferring over into that platform, the reports, interventions that we're going to be using, it's tracking everything, forms, assessments, it will be housed in Linkit. And again, when we talk about streamlining a process and helping to set schools and teachers and staff up for success, this is the way of being able to streamline that process so that it's not disjointed or inconsistent across the 10 elementary schools. Please don't get me wrong, over the past years, we certainly have always held data meetings. We've always intervened when students were struggling. We always had plans and teams of teachers and specialists that were a part of those teams. But again, Linkit will help us to be able to streamline the process because there are a lot of pieces to the MTSS puzzle, which again, in October, we'll be delving a little bit into that through our presentation. So I feel that this is a great way to be able to implement MTSS, and I also want to hit on the fact that they customize so many of their options to meet the needs of what this particular district will need. They're not looking to just mirror what all the other districts and schools are doing. They will customize what we need, and the way that they do that is through their very impressive professional development support and tech support that they provide to school districts. I just recently met through Zoom with someone that is in charge of the intervention manager suite as well as the go-to person for supporting the teams. She had an educational background, worked in a public school setting, was extremely knowledgeable, had great perspective, and as we know, we can collect all the data that we want, but unless we use it in a meaningful way, it doesn't make any sense to have it. We need to be able to know the right way to pull reports, help train teachers effectively, and when we just talk about intervention manager, they have great support available, and it goes well beyond that. Linkit itself has a lot of great team members that will work with us in rolling this out and making sure everyone has the training that they need, and they have a great, again, customized approach to doing so. Did I forget anything?
It was well articulated.
Well, as you're excited about many things, Tony, we're excited about that, so I hope that's coming.
Now I can tell.
But we're happy to answer any questions. And you did touch on the Bucks County IU component too. They have supported Linkit and worked with Linkit for a long time, and so I think that's a great resource for us as a district to have so many others in the surrounding area that have gone through what we are just starting to do.
I mean, I think when you look at the discrepancy in the costs, the bottom line is with Performance Matters, if we were to go with that new product from Power School, we'd have to go out and secure an intervention system software anyway, which is, so now you're talking about that additional cost. So that's the primary reason for the cost differential. But there's also a bunch of other added benefits to securing Linkit.
Dr. Thorwood was first.
A couple of comments on one question. One is I think you're trying too hard to sell this. This board's going to give you what you need. The second comment is if you're going to use sunsetting of software as a reason, then get rid of hack. You're kind of being hypocritical when you say we're sunsetting because we're keeping hack going with Band-Aids. Get rid of it. And my only question is, does it meet the cybersecurity needs for kids' data? And I'm good this time.
Mr. Hidalgo?
Sure. So you're going to have another meeting to go into dive into this at the educational meeting later in the month. But I would just want to ask, like, data retention, does it become part of the student record? Is this something parents, if they're interested over the next couple of years, could get some reporting on that, or sure. It's not, and we are going to keep this, how long, that
So
kind of
the
thing.
way the system works is the data belongs to us, not them. So if we terminate our contract with them, we have 60 days to pull the data before they will erase it from their system. And that's very, very clear, let's say like 4 times in the contract. But they'll house it for 60 days, then we have to remove it. And whenever we terminate the contract, we have 60 days. So if we only use the system for a year and then we decide to go with something else, we don't lose the data that we've put into it for the year.
Okay, so I'm sure you'll back it up every year, redundancy. And what about parent access? Is that something with like parent, does it become part of their student record? I know it'll be in a separate place, but is that something we pull? Would it be helpful to you guys? I'm sure it would be, looking at history of progress.
And that's a great question, and we're not there yet, but interestingly enough, we had a leadership team meeting just today, and that came up with the screeners that we're doing to collect this beginning of the year data, again, in the middle of the year and end of the year, and the question came up from within the team, at what point, or do we want to have parents have access? And so we are thinking about that. I don't think it's that anyone disagrees that they should, it's just better understanding, getting our footing with MTSS, seeing if Lincoln ends up coming on board. And the screeners, some of the screeners that we're using, that's new to teachers too. We're expanding to upper grades, which we haven't done in the past. And so there's a lot being implemented, all great stuff, but all happening right now. We want to make sure when we give that access, that it's at a point where teachers can speak to it. They know what the data means. We've had some time to work with it. So we're on the same page in terms of asking those questions, but not quite there yet.
Thank you.
Mr. Tate?
Yeah, just a couple quick ones, please, Nicole. What was the composition of the committee that did the selection? And who are the users? Would that include teachers across? Would it include all teachers?
Teachers would have, yes, all teachers would have access to Linkit. And also with the intervention manager, I just want to point out too, that's not just a benefit to elementary. There are modules and components that they shared would be very good for secondary as well that we can talk about. That would be a little bit different than this MTSS piece, but there's still some resources available for the secondary level.
Great. And the selection committee that looked at the RFPs?
We had just about everyone that you could think of.
Yeah, good stakeholder representatives for classroom teachers, curriculum coordinators, administrators, central office. It was a pretty broad-based selection committee, folks from ISDS, the data folks who do a lot of the when the rubber hits the road work. So they were very involved in the process.
Good. Well,
Matt and his team were involved.
Yeah, thank you. I'm convinced. There is a price differential, but if it's more useful, and we're getting a product that everybody agrees is going to be useful, and I think we could support it like Dr. Thorwitz said.
Ms. McKee?
Thank you. Yeah, this sounds wonderful. It sounds like a really terrific tool for everyone. Just a quick question. Is this a one-year contract?
Yes.
And is there any incentive if we commit to subsequent years, or would the price come down?
There is cost savings if we did a multi-year contract. The problem is they would want the payment in advance upfront. So we would be paying for 3 years of software this year. And as the finance director, I think that's not a great practice that we want to get into.
We don't want to pay before we try it out for good anyway.
Well, yes, and we
Right.
try it out.
Right.
That's a good question.
But as an initial customer, would we be incentivized in subsequent years?
I'm sure, it sounds like the business model is to pay several years in advance, so I'm sure we could get that, but
We'll pay the first year and see.
we'll see.
Understood. Thank you.
We are getting a little bit of a discount because they partnered with the IU, and there are 8 other
I see.
districts that are already using the product. So as more districts jump on the product, the discount's reflected when we renew. So
Thank you.
it's a Pennsylvania company. They started in Pennsylvania.
So was it 8 other districts in Bucks County who were using it? And have you had a chance to speak with those end users and
Yes.
satisfaction at all, kind of thumbs up?
I think that was our first meeting, in fact, last year in the new roles, and we said, wow, Linkit, they
Because you
are
get
being well
you get the
represented.
perspective of the person who's selling it, then you also get the perspective of the end user and what their satisfaction is. It makes it.
I think that was the biggest thing for us when you talk about assessments, and we have a plethora of assessments, whether they're state assessments, Keystone, PSSA, all the PIMS data, and then the internal assessments that we have, the CDTs, the STAR, the Acadians, midterms, finals. Assessment warehousing is a huge aspect of it, but more importantly for us is what does the classroom teacher do with the data? How can they generate practical, pragmatic reports to help their students that are in front of them? And I think that was lacking, I gotta be honest with you, in the past with the older module that we used. Our hope is that with Linkit, it's going to be very teacher interactive and fruitful.
Mr.
Thank
Doug.
you. Yeah, so it's about $8 a student, so for this very strong tool, I can just tell when I see something that's very, very powerful, this is going to be great, and what we're trying to do with learning loss. Anecdotally, my son came home the other day, and how's your day? You know, I ask him every day, and it's been perfect. Everything was great, except they gave me a pop quiz in English language, and I'm thinking it was this assessment that he got. I don't know, did we do English? Did we do this in English in 7th grade?
Link it per se?
Yeah, like basically,
Oh, you're
was
talking
he in the
about
Lincoln
7th
assessment last week, or they haven't started doing that yet? Okay, so it's completely not related. All right, my fault.
And that was 7th grade you were talking
Yeah,
about?
yeah, it was just like, basically, it was in some type of, looked like, gauging, and we'll do it again at the end of the year. So I figured that was, but it's
I don't
not.
know, I don't know if it was a formal assessment, but I mean, many classroom teachers across the district, to start out the school year, they're going to do some baseline testing.
Yeah.
And hopefully they're doing more than just the end of the year, we're talking more like quarterly progress monitoring
Yeah.
to make sure that we're seeing some growth and intervening if we're not.
It was good, in 7th grade, and all of a sudden, those pop stuff, good stuff.
So, Mr. Solomon, Mr. Roosevelt, do you have any comments, any questions from the phone?
About LinkedIn? No, you guys covered it well.
Thank you. Any other consent agenda? Good.
No, Ms. Kelly, thank you. I reviewed this during the pre-season, or the pre-meeting with you guys. It's great stuff. Thank you.
Great.
So this is just for your information, the tax rebate information sessions have been so popular, we've added more dates to the tour. We're going to do another session on Wednesday, October 11th at the Star Center from 1 to 3. I'm going to do the presentation that I've been doing, and then there'll be representatives from, I'll hang around and answer questions about the state, about our rebate, and there'll be representatives from some PA state representatives to answer questions about the state rebate. Because, it's very important that if you want the Council Rock rebate, you are getting the state rebate. We cannot give you a rebate until you've applied for and received the state rebate. So it's very important that people know to file that state rebate first, so that we get, I remind anyone that may be, listening online, anybody that could qualify for this, please let them know about it, about the state rebate and the Council Rock rebate. It's been started on July 1st, where I have a few in my inbox that I haven't processed yet, but I think we've had 22 respondents, about $7,250 have gone out. So
Great. Tony, nobody can say you didn't try. All of you. So
I just wanted to comment, I went to the first one, which was in Wrightstown.
Yes.
And you and Andrea and Dr. Senko were there, and it was a very clear, concise presentation, and it seemed like people were very appreciative. So thank you. Thanks for doing it.
Yeah, so thank you. We're going to have, one thing I went to one of those meetings too, and I guess we couldn't answer the state form, and that was the biggest question everybody had. Did we initially get that before? Basically, you have to go through the state and we supplement that. So that was the big question. So we asked the state representatives to come, the three that represent the school district. So far, we have 2 that are definitely coming. We're still waiting on Mr. Warren to hopefully come to the Star Center and represent. One thing he was saying, I would think the deadline for next year would have already passed already. I think that's kind of important for people to know that there's an extension this year on this because it's new. So it's important to say, hey, next year you're going to have till June 30th or whatever to be done. And also the limit goes from 35,000 to 45,000 on the state level. So hopefully that helps next year. Start doing your planning now,
Spoiling my presentation. So you're spoiling my presentation.
Oh, no, I'll put it out there. Maybe somebody like, I'm not going to go because I don't make $35,000. can you take 65 down to 45? Maybe.
Yeah, and the limit will be raised next year to $45,000. The upper limit will be, I believe, $1,000. Right now it's like 600. So, or 750, I'm sorry, but that's going up. They did extend the program this year from, the deadline is usually June 30th. So for the state program, the deadline is June 30th of the year, of the year after you're filing for the rebate. So 22 is the year that you can file for now. Usually the deadline would have passed. They've extended the deadline to the end of this calendar year. Our rebate will runs on and will continue to run on the same as our fiscal and school year. So we're giving a whole year for applying for ours. One of the benefits of that is people can apply for our rebate. If they use somebody to do their taxes, they can apply for our rebate when they do. So they'll be able to apply for our rebate when they do their 23 taxes. When they go to their accountant for their 23 taxes, they can still apply for our rebate. That's some of the, what's going on there. And I do, I say this at the meeting, at the information session, so I probably should put it out here. Council Rock School District employees cannot help residents fill out the state return. I can't determine what income is, what goes on those returns. That's not something that I'm qualified to do. So I just want people to know that, and that's why we're having the state reps come out to help people, determine that. So.
Excellent. Thank you.
Oh, and Andrea's done a really great job of publicizing this. So
we've put it. We have two things. We have the flyer that you just saw, and then we have a packet which has the instructions for Council Rock and the instructions for the state form. So it's very clear when folks are attending this that you have to have a state form as well. And that's intimidating visually. It looks like an IRS form. So it's just intimidating. So I think it was a great idea to invite the state reps there because it not only facilitates their dialogue with their constituents, but they know that form much better than we do. That's number one. And so we're dropping it off at the libraries, the 3 libraries in the area, and the senior center. And I also emailed it to all the representatives, and it'll be in their newsletters and things like that. So, we've done our due diligence and beyond just to get the word out. We're confident with that.
Right. And I have to say, I've been watching the social media for Council Rock, and I see a huge improvement. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's just like so positive and so like keeping
That's our mission.
us up to speed with what is happening in the classrooms. This is great. Thank you.
And then, so upcoming agenda items, the 24-25 budget update. I hope to have a calendar for the full year of when events are going to occur. I'm trying to get budget expense budgets out this month, so we can get those back as soon as possible and start looking at putting that together. I want to look at first quarter of this school year's results. Along with that, we should have the 22-23 final numbers pretty well in hand by then, so we can get them get the company to put those in the scenario system and start looking at a 5-year projection based on the actual numbers from last year. So that's the majority of the items on the for that are upcoming. So that's it for the slide.
Excellent. Public comment? Would you like to say something?
I'll be quick, because I know the Eagles are. My name is Jenny Lindros, and I live in Holland, and I have a child at Hong but I wanted to speak specifically to the facilities committee about the South Auditorium renovation. The auditorium and stage is used by the choral, orchestra, bowling lanes, and band for variety performances and competitions. And when you calculate all that up, it's over 300 students, which is 15% of the South population, which which is a huge amount of kids that are impacted by this. They only have so many performances a year. And we have received, to this date, I would have expected some type of clear communications about timelines and solutions for alternate performance spaces if the venue is going to be out of commission. But to date, we have had nothing. Instead, it's been shifting timelines, whisper down the lane, and no official written communication to any of the student leaders or the parent organizations of these 4 organizations. We do significant fundraising, planning years in advance, and volunteering for these performances. Based upon my own research and email inquiry to staff administration and Ms. Binda Rochelle, I've learned that despite having selected a vendor last April and having multiple months through summer and fall to perform this renovation, it is now being scheduled for January. As a result, the winter show will be impacting with the potential for the spring concerts and the spring play to also be impacted. For those that don't know, the winter show is traditionally the biggest show. It's the year where it has most attendance, and it's when the elementary students often participate. Every other year, it is a pit show, which means the orchestra actually plays the score for the music. This year is a pit show, so it's 200 at least students that will be involved. The Mamma Mia performance last year had over 2,000 attendees. This is one of the few events that has true community engagement. Further response I received from Mrs. Gormley, I was told the current plan is to hold the winter show, the premiere show I just spoke about, in the cafeteria. I find this unacceptable. I'm frustrated that the district would accept the lunchroom as a suitable option for a Council Rock production when there are 4 Council Rock district theaters within a 1-mile radius of 7. And there's 3 community theaters within 3-mile radius. Even if a group is adaptable and accommodating, much like theater students are, because the show must go on mentality, we should still strive to provide the most quality performance venue we can. I cannot imagine you would accept the varsity basketball team moving temporary hoops into the cafeteria and playing the games in the lunchroom if their gym is under construction. You wouldn't allow it, even if they volunteered to do it. You would find a safe, competitive, and comparable venue for them to play. Just like you've done for field hockey, all those years that turf was the standard of play, South Field Hockey moved to North and did their practices and games there. Or like Pennsbury did last week when their turf was not complete for their final game. They found a venue for the students to play, where the spectators could enjoy and competition could be safe. The performing arts community deserves the same respect, and I'm here today to ask for 2 things. 1, improved communication to the student and parent organizations about the status of the updates, and 2, to ensure that they have a safe and comparable venue to perform their winter show and be ready to offer the same things if the construction runs long and their spring concerts and spring play are also Go Eagles.
If I could just comment, Ms. Lindos. I spoke personally with Mr. Raddick regarding the renovation project, and he and I both committed to, if our kids need another venue, we have many options right here. Everything you just outlined with venues, he was committed to that as well as I was. So I don't know where the communication is. I'll find out on that, but I do want to tell you that we spoke directly about having an opportunity for our kids to have what they need to be able to perform.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, it would be wonderful to just get it because it's 4 different organizations. There's a lot of whisper down the lane. There's no consistency. And when I spoke to Mr. Raddick, he referred me to Ms. Gormley, and Ms. Gormley told me it was in the cafeteria.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are we, any other questions? All right, we're done. Go Eagles. Thank you.
Bye, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.